everyone. Welcome back to Campus Podcast Around the Fire. It is I, Meg, with my wonderful companion Clay.
Hello.
We're back again this week. Briefly, how are you doing, Clay? How's things? Is things good?
Things are pretty good.
Things are pretty
I've
good.
been playing video games, so things are great.
Things are always good when you play video games. Which very easily rolls me into what I wanted to discuss for the podcast today, which is just like an overall sort of brief look at where gaming is going towards the future. I mean, obviously, it's been rapidly changing over the years as technology ramps up, prices change, and people's overall sort of choices and the media that they consume has changed. But obviously, there's positives and there's negatives to what's sort of coming up in video game world at the moment. So I thought it might be nice for us to sort of sit down and like overall discuss it, because a few of the things that have been coming up are sort of like making me do the GIF blink. Like, I'm quite surprised with what sort of stuff is actually popping up at the moment. So, the first thing I wanted to discuss, because I think this is gonna overall affect like everything going forward. I mean, not that it's technically the first of its kind to do it, but obviously the Switch 2 coming out in June. I think it's June the 5th.
Yeah, it's very soon. Let me just double check. Nintendo Switch 2. It comes out June the 5th.
I mean, I've worked it out price wise for myself in the UK. It's going to work out to be around £396, which, when you say that, is absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, it's like 450 in American, and I think in Canada it's like 600 and something. It's expensive. It is $630 Canadian.
Mm. And I mean, obviously, I know the reason why I said obviously it's not the first, because obviously the PlayStation 5 was notoriously quite expensive, and it was also very difficult to get a hold of. And with obviously things that are happening in the political world, the price is obviously higher due to tariffs and all sorts of stuff that is happening, which is not the topic of discussion today for the podcast. But it does affect what we're discussing, at least for the price
Yeah,
wise.
I believe the price of the Switch 2 didn't go up by the tariffs, but actually, there was a news article in the Hollywood Reporter that talked about how a bunch of the like accessories for the Switch went up by about $5 a piece.
Hmm.
So like everything just went up a bit, like $5 more than what they were initially listed at.
And which is crazy to think that, like, you know, that how much effect it has on sometimes the stuff you don't even think about. You know, like, oh, I need to buy, you know, this, I need to buy like a new bag for something, and depending on where it's coming from, it can dramatically change how much it costs.
Well, yeah, like I'm notorious. I love having a second controller for my system, so like if one starts getting low, I can plug it in and switch to the other one.
Mm-hmm.
But like if they're gonna keep going up in price, like PS5 controllers in Canada are like $100. They're like 99.99.
I remember when
It's
they, I remember
insane.
when they used to be like £40.
And that'd be like $60 or $70 Canadian. It's like, yep, that okay. It's expensive, but like prohibitively so. But it's like if I buy five or six PS5 controllers, I could have bought a PS5.
Yeah, yeah, basically. It does like like that's one of the things where it's just like prices for stuff is crazy now. Just thinking about it overall. I mean, I know obviously the price of the Switch is a lot more than the the first Switch that came out. But they're obviously going with the whole idea that it's overall like that they're saying it's a better design, it's going to be more powerful, it's got a bigger screen, but I think it's around about the same size, so you're not sort of like having to carry like a bigger, heavier Switch. It's going to still be lightweight, but they've managed to make it so the screen's bigger, it'll have a better battery in it, you know, the usual sort of techie spiel that they like to give you as regards to
which is crazy because like yeah, a lot of people talked about like these like the Nintendo ticked almost all of the boxes for what they wanted, what people wanted out of the Switch 2. They wanted it to do 4K. They wanted the screen to be bigger. They wanted better battery life. They wanted them to like fix the Joy-Cons a little bit, and that might be with the magnet system. Like they wanted the kickstand on the back to be stronger for placing it up. They wanted an additional charging port so that way you could charge it while it was standing up with the kickstand. And they literally did all of that. And then they upped the price so much.
Yeah. And then they were like, we're going to just add at least £100 on top of that after we've put in all of the requests you've made.
The original Switch, I guess, on launch was roughly $300 US, and now it's $450, so it's gone up by about $150.
See, I think I know I mean I'm always late to the party but I got the Super Smash Bros. Limited Edition Switch, and I think I paid £300 for that when it came out. Yep. But like I say, I was late to the party anyway, so it was a case of like... But I guess
that probably came with Smash Bros. In that?
It did. It was already like pre-installed on the console.
See, and that makes sense, and that's a pretty good deal.
So,
Smash Bros. Is in fact a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. I mean, obviously they're doing, I think the main bundles they're going to be doing is the Mario Kart ones, because they're releasing a new Mario Kart for the new Switch. But yeah. I was having a look at like, I mean, a couple of the games that they're obviously like mentioning, obviously Mario Kart World being one of them. They're going to be putting like Hogwarts Legacy is going to be down as like just an auto like available to use straight away. Both the Legend of Zelda games. But I did hear something about the fact that if you have the cartridge for Legend of Zelda or something and you want to use it on the Switch too, you have to pay an extra for again, just for people listening, this is all going off what is currently on the internet, and you have to take what is on the internet with a pinch of salt, because you can't guarantee if it's fully factual or not. So most of what we're going to be discussing is sort of like theories, basically. Whether they're true or not, it's another thing.
Fair enough. So from my understanding is I've got like the Nintendo, at least the Canadian Nintendo store up right now. I assume that Switch 1, Breath of the Wild, Legends of the Tears of the Kingdom will work on the Switch 2, but there is a Switch 2 upgrade pack which gives it all of the updates that the Switch 2 version has.
Yeah, that must be what they were mentioning then. Yeah.
I think you are still able to use your original versions. Mm-hmm. Whether or not they run perfectly on Switch 2, I don't know. It's like one of those things where like your PS1 could play your PS2 could play PS1 games, but sometimes not as well. I don't know. It looks like the upgrade pack in Canadian dollars is $15 for the upgrade. So you just get basically a patch to your Switch 1 version. It downloads it, and then you'll be playing the updated Switch 2 version. What does that mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Because that's the thing. I know that there will be people that will want to get the new console, but they'll want to be able to use the games they already own. So it'd be a real, like, evil move of Nintendo to be like, well, all of the cartridges from the first Switch won't work on the second one. That is, especially considering that they're quite niche in what they do anyway, because obviously the exclusives that they have are only exclusives on the Switch. They've also, I'm pretty sure, have they actually got the rights to the new, what was it called? Dusk? What was it? Oh, goodness gracious.
Oh, yeah, Dusk Bloods.
The
new FromSoft ones.
Yeah, don't they have that as an exclusive as well?
Yes. From my understanding, is the Duskbloods is Switch exclusive.
Mm.
It is not coming anywhere else. It is only on there. I was very tempted by it, but then I learned that it's not really the kind of game I was looking for. It's not like it's not like every other FromSoft game. It is apparently like a mix of PvE, PvP, battle royale, like not battle royale, but like esque idea.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay, that's you know what, I am not as tempted. It still looks very cool, but like I'm not like immediately like, ooh, do I need this? Says man who has bought Dark Souls on every platform.
Yeah, yeah. Because, I mean, just looking at a couple of the other ones, I mean, they're obviously mentioning, like, I mean, Split Fiction is obviously. That's apparently getting a movie, whether that's a true rumor or not, but apparently that's going to get a movie, which is weird to think about considering the game's only just come out. But then there's other games like, I mean, Street Fighter 6, your favorite Yakuza 0 is going to be on there.
Yeah, I as much as I'm like, oh yeah, get Yakuza, don't get it on Switch. They basically put like Yakuza Kiwami or Zero on or one on Switch. I'm not sure if it was Kiwami or Zero, but apparently it did not run very well.
Mm.
Now Switch 2, whole different kettle of fish, might be amazing. But I can tell you right now, as a guy who's been playing it on PS4 and PS5 this entire time, they run great on PS4 and PS5.
And because that's the thing, like the whole point of the Switch, like the idea of what the Switch is like was genius for them, really, because they were already like thinking of. They've always been quite innovative with the ideas that they've got. Obviously, when they initially bought the Wii out, that was like really, nobody had thought of to do that, of like getting a controller where you could like have the motion to move around and stuff, and you could have like all the options of the like the party games and the sports games and stuff like that. Like that was really innovative. I felt like they, personally, this is my opinion, they kind of dipped a bit with the Wii U, because it was like you're going like down, you're downgrading because you're holding this like big, like, I mean, I could understand if you were playing like single player games, but you could then play those on a console, like a like a PlayStation 4 or Xbox, with like the big controller with the screen and stuff. I know you could still get the other like motion controllers, but then it was like, well, what's the point in having the big heavy controller thing with the monitor in it? It just, I don't know, it seemed a bit weird, that. And then the Switch came back out and it was just like, oh, okay, so this is what you were actually working on. Like, you brought out whatever this thing was, and then the Switch came out. And obviously that was just like, that was the best of both worlds. It's just like, I want a handheld thing, but I also want to be able to play it on a big screen. And it's just like, we got you covered, bro. It's called the Switch. You just put it into this little box here and it goes on the TV and you can play it like a console. Awesome. What if I want to go on holiday with it? You can just pick it up, put the consoles and controllers at the side, and off you go. You've got a handheld console. Awesome. Here's my money. Where is it?
Yeah, exactly. Nintendo has actually had like a very weird console lifespan history. Is just every time they come out with a console, one does well and the next one afterward just bombs. It happened like the NES, huge success. The SNES was actually a flop at release. The N64 did amazing. The GameCube surprisingly didn't do well, I learned recently.
Which is weird, because I always remember most of the people that like I knew growing up talking about GameCube.
Yep.
Like quite a few people had GameCube.
Yeah, apparently like it did not do well on release, and it just did not compete well with Microsoft's Xbox and the PlayStation 2. Like it didn't.
Well, I'm gonna say, I mean, when you think about like the GameCube compared to the PlayStation 2.
Oh yeah, it gets blown out of the water.
Yeah.
I say this as a kid who never had a PlayStation until a PS3 I got for free from a guy when I was in college.
Oh.
And I would like to point out I am only 29 years old. College was not that long ago. Stop hassling me.
See, I'm trying to remember how I think I got a pre-owned console, PlayStation 2 one.
Oh, nice.
Back when there used to be a shop in the UK called Game Station. And that used to be, I mean, it did, basically, that was the place you went to if you wanted, like, pre-owned stuff. Because they used to have so much pre-owned stuff, but, like, really good prices. And most of the time, you could get, like, a bargain for stuff. And it would be, like, still in really good condition. So if you wanted pre-owned stuff, you went to Game Station. If you wanted new stuff, you went to Game. Obviously, yeah, Game Station went under. Games barely hanging on by a thread now because obviously everybody can either get their games digitally or they can just order them on Amazon or somehow you can go to the supermarket and pick up video games still, but they can make theirs cheaper because obviously overall their money actually comes from food since they're a supermarket. So they're not desperately clutching at people to buy the games, so they're fine to make them slightly more people to buy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a pre-owned PlayStation 2 with some pre-owned games. But I think I was 13, 12 or 13 when I got that. So I wasn't like on the ball with, I've never been on the ball with. I had that for years until I was, God, how old was I? PlayStation. I bought that off somebody I knew. I bought that with Uncharted 2 because he was just like, "Oh, do you want to like nice. Do you want to play test it and see what it's like?" And he got me to do the intro of Uncharted 2.
That's rad.
And I was just like playing. I was like, "Oh God!" Every time I thought it was gonna fall, and obviously he's laughing his head off, thinking it's hilarious. And I'm like, "Oh my God! Oh God! He's gonna fall and die! Oh no!"
There.
What a life.
But yeah, then post GameCube, they came out with the Wii, and the Wii was a success, to say the least. I think that thing became like synonymous with like gaming in the mid 2010s.
It was the family console, is what people referred it to.
Oh, everyone can play it. Your grandma can play bowling on it. Like
that was the gimmick, wasn't it? That's why they went with family console, because anybody of any age could play it.
Exactly. And then obviously we had the Wii U, and that did poorly because most people kind of attribute that to like Nintendo not really differentiating what a Wii U was different than the Wii. So like people who had the Wii didn't feel obligated to buy a Wii U.
The only thing I'm upset about with regards to the Wii U, which is another reason why I'm probably just like, why Wii U? Why? Bayonetta 2 was an exclusive on it, and it upset me.
Hey, it's on Switch now. It's okay.
I know, but still.
and then after the Wii U, we got the Switch, and the Switch did great. People love the Switch. And now it feels like we're doing the same thing of like, the Switch 2 is going to come out, and are we going to run into Nintendo's age-old curse of puts out a really good console that everyone loves, the next one they put out is going to bomb. And it's honestly tough to say if the Switch 2 is gonna flop, because like the pre-orders have just were like completely sold out. Like they opened up at midnight a little while ago, and like things sold out immediately. Local game store I'm good friends with, their Switch 2 list is like 20 people, has like 20 people on the pre-order list for it already. Now granted, they have said that there are 20 people on the pre-order list. There was 150 people on the PS5 pre-order list.
Yeah.
So that might be an indicator of like, this is not going to be doing PlayStation 5, PS5 release like numbers.
I think, but like I say, like you've said, obviously it's because it's still technically classed as a niche console. Yeah. Even though there are quite a few people that play Mario Kart World, as an example, that would want to play Mario Kart World or just play Mario Kart in general, you put those kind of numbers next to the numbers of people that play FIFA and Call of Duty, which tend to be like Xbox and PlayStation players or PC players, the numbers are obviously going to be in favor of the latter than the former overall.
Yeah. The problem is like the Switch is, I know it's considered niche, but like Nintendo is still like, it's the big family brand. Like, I know a bunch of people at my work are already like, oh, I'm thinking about getting the Switch 2 for me and my kids, and I'm like, yeah, that is the demographic that would love that.
But like you say, I think since the Wii came out, they've tried to stick to the demographic of being a family console, with obviously having like games for all ages and games that you can play together. Because obviously when they started doing like the Just Dance games back on the Wii, that was like a fantastic, another like from what I remember being a big thumbs up as like, oh, like a party dance game. Like when it comes to like thinking like which console do you think of when you think of Just Dance, I think most people would probably say like Nintendo, like overall, like, oh yeah, I got it on the Wii.
Yeah, I think there was actually something very funny. I think last Just Dance on the Wii was like only like 5 years ago. They were putting out Just Dance. Just Dance 2020 was on the Wii.
Oh wow.
That's what I'm saying. You're right. Just Dance is the Nintendo property.
They've that is another positive though. If they've still been releasing games on like old console, well, technically,
Mhm.
like PlayStation and Xbox will be notorious for like, yes, the PlayStation 3's like basically gone now, isn't it? There's no like online stuff for it anymore. They stopped making games when the PlayStation, I think almost when the PlayStation 4 had like completely come out and people had them. And the PlayStation 5 is starting to obviously overtake the PlayStation 4, and eventually that will become obsolete as well.
Yeah.
They'll get to the point where they're sort of like pushing people off old consoles, making them have to get new ones, whereas Nintendo doesn't seem to do that too much.
Yeah, like Nintendo doesn't so much do it. They kind of did it with the Switch though, where they're like, yeah, no, the Switch is not replacing the 3DS. And I think within a year, like 3DS games just kind of stopped.
Yeah, I was upset about that because it's kind of just like, I get sort of why they've done it because the Switch is technically handheld now, and they did obviously the Switch Lite, which is just handheld.
Yeah.
But they're like they've shot themselves in the foot because the DS is another like god tier invention of theirs that they've
Yep.
buried and forgotten about.
Oh yeah. The DS and the 3DS are absolutely like two consoles that like are really good. And that's one thing like Nintendo's which was it like their handheld consoles, I don't think any of them have been a particularly big flop or miss.
No. Like, so I mean sometimes like not that long ago I had the weird urge to be like, I really want a Game Boy Advance. And I was like, where did that
Yeah.
thought come from? But I remember playing Crash Bandicoot XS on the Game Boy Advance, having a whale of a time. I think I had Rayman 3 as well. Like I had some games on that. In fact, I still have a couple of games that you can play on a Game Boy Advance.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like I love my Game Boy Advance. I still have my original Game Boy Color.
See, I don't have my Game Boy Advance because that was the first one that we got because it was always a weird thing like when I was growing up with my cousins that they had to have like the newest console. So when the Game Boy Color came out, that was the first one they got, and we were like, oh, that looks cool. What is it? Oh, we got Game Boy Colors. Meh, 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 meh.
Yeah.
So we got two Game Boy Advances, really cheap, and a couple of games. And we obviously
Love
took
that.
those on holiday, and we were like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever. And we were like playing Game Boy Advances. And my cousin was just like, what's that? What are you playing on? Oh, we're playing on a Game Boy Advance. And then the next holiday we all went on together, he's like, I've got the first Nintendo DS. You know, like the one that had like the chunkier bottom and the thinner like front top screen. It was like
Yeah,
overall
no.
really bulky at the bottom. It had like the extra like big grips at the back for the buttons.
Yeah, and the top screen was like a weird like hexagon, almost like the top of a hexagon. Like it was just, it had this weird concave bit. It was like Yeah, no, I know exactly.
Yeah.
I never had one of those.
Yeah. My brother ended up with the Game Boy Advance SD, the flip one.
Oh
That
yeah.
was great. That was a really cool little thing. I kept my Game Boy Advance a bit longer, and then I got the Nintendo DS Lite for Christmas, and that was I think that's the only console. Well, that was at the time the only console I had that was brand new until I started obviously buying my own console.
Mhm.
And my cousin didn't like that either when he found out I had the Nintendo DS Lite, because he also had a Nintendo DS Lite, and then he had to go and get the Nintendo 3DS. You can see where this is going.
It was an arms race.
It was an arms race, basically. Yeah. I mean, I was just enjoying my consoles. I don't know what was going on regarding my cousin. I don't know whether he just liked to have the newest tech or not, but I don't know. Either way, we had loads of Nintendo stuff. Basically, is the crux of the story growing up, and it was always like involved in our holidays. When we all had DSs, we'd all be playing Mario Kart on like the free to play like multiplayer connection thing. As long as one person had the game, we could all connect to it and play Shy Guys. It was like just stuff like that. Just thinking about like parts of my childhood and being like, the Nintendo DS. Obviously, that was the console then, was there for all of that stuff. You know, doing the Picto chat thing where you could send messages and drawings and stuff. Like, you know,
Hell
all
yeah.
the cool stuff that they used to have. And they've gone and killed it.
Yes.
It's such a
Yes, they
shame
have.
to think about.
Yeah, they. That's the one thing that really sucks is like when stuff stops being supported.
But like overall, I mean, I hope Nintendo know what they're doing. And
I assume they've had a lot of money spent on figuring out cost analysis, effectiveness, and target audiences and market research. And I assume that this is the answer they've come up with. And I'll sit here thinking like, that I think they're wrong, but I also might be wrong, and this becomes the greatest selling Switch of all time. Who knows?
the only thing we can do on that is sit, wait, and observe.
And be mad that they're updating Pokemon Scarlet and Violet for the Switch 2 and not the Switch 1.
Now, I'd like to move on to the next topic that I've seen been popping up regarding uh, more to do with gaming companies than console specifics. One example that, well, or rather, the example I've seen, but I do know this is happening in other places as well, was a court case involving Ubisoft. Apparently, they're facing a couple of different court cases, mostly evolving around one of their games, The Crew. They shut down its server, I believe, from when I did my brief research. And basically nobody can access the game anymore. And
Yes.
they've basically turned around and said that people don't actually own their games. And they're sticking to that statement. And as you can imagine, people are not happy with that statement.
Yeah, yes. Not owning the things you buy definitely has a very, very strong feeling from people.
It's
It's
but and that's the thing, that it's just like, where do you draw the line? Is it just digital users? Because there are people that will own the physical copy, like physical disc copies of The Crew. What happens to those people? Because obviously the overall belief has always been that if you own like the physical disc, I mean, as far as I'm aware personally, you have a copy of the game. If you have a digital copy, obviously you technically don't own the copy. You're just licensed, like renting the copy. So it makes more
Yeah.
sense that people would be like, if it was a downloaded like digital copy, that they wouldn't be able to get access to it. But in case with the disc ones, I think that's a more extreme version. I could see why people that own physical copies would be more mad.
Yes, so I guess one of the issues in that specific court case is, so yeah, Ubisoft was taking the servers of the crew off because the crew had been out for ages and it wasn't feasible to keep the servers going indefinitely, yada yada yada. But then that made the fans go, well, we're gonna make our own. We're gonna run fan servers then, for people who still want to play the crew. And Ubisoft said, well, no, you can't do that. And they're like, why? And it's like, well, you don't technically own. So what they actually did is they delisted everyone's digital copy from their library in like Steam and that. Like they took it away from everyone. And that prompted the statement of, you don't own your digital games. We're revoking your license to the game.
What does that mean for disc people, like disc users?
Um, I don't know.
Because does that mean they'd only be able to, if there's like an offline version of the crew, does that mean they can only play the offline versions? I don't see why they had to basically remove everybody's license, as in like everybody can't play this game anymore. If you're going to shut down the servers and make it offline only, then let people still play the game offline. Don't just completely take it away from them.
So I looked up just briefly and I just came up with a few Reddit posts that just said, even owning the physical disc, they shut down the servers. And because the crew was an entirely online game, it just no longer works at all.
Oh, right, okay. I didn't know whether it
Yeah.
was one of those games where you could play like online and offline, but
No,
that's
I guess it was.
but that's the thing though, like if people want to put their own time into running a server for a game that they love, but you've already had your money, I personally don't see a problem. If Ubisoft don't have to worry about it and they've had their money from it and somebody else is going to be taking the responsibility of running the server, and it's just a case of, you know, them, as you know, they have to follow, they could make like a strict set of rules that these people have to adhere to, or it can be revoked, and they will because they want to play the game. I don't see an issue.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm looking through rose-tinted glasses right now, but I personally don't see an issue.
it definitely brings the idea of like licenses to the forefront, where it's like, people, when you buy something, you should in some way own it. But now, because of this whole like licensing dispute and the arguments about it, it's even made Steam now be a little more transparent about your purchases. You've probably noticed, and anyone who's listening, Greg, I'm talking to you, has probably noticed that on the Steam purchasing page, it now says a purchase of a digital product grants a license to the product on Steam. It no longer tries to tell you that you're buying the game; you're buying the license to the game,
Yeah.
and that has technically always been the case, just in the fine print. But like this whole issue with
They're
the crew,
having to bring it to the forefront.
yeah, because otherwise, they might be liable for being like, no, 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 you didn't. I was not told this was the case,
Because I mean,
and
something else that I've seen in the information that I got regarding Ubisoft's multiple court cases is apparently they've also got a court case filed against them for excessive data collection and unlawful processing of player data in single player games. Not like online games. Apparently this happened in Far Cry Primal.
what what information, like, what does that game ask you that they were collecting?
I don't know, but like what?
The only thing I could think of is like, I know when you like boot up a console or like boot up something through Steam, it might have your name, date of birth, and like age. Well, yes, age because of date of birth. But other than that, like that's, I'm like, why are you harvesting that data? Like, obviously, you'd have to have age because obviously Far Cry Primal's and rated M game and Steam goes. are you an adult before buying? And I just kind of go, probably, and buy it.
According to when I was born, yes. Mentally, no.
Yeah, but nobody stopped me from buying these games yet, so.
No, I agree. But like, where does all this stop? Because 100% it's not just Ubisoft. Ubisoft is just currently under the spotlight at the moment. There will be, I imagine that there's, I don't know, maybe I'm going to take a wild guess. Probably 70% of gaming companies are like naughty in some way, shape, or form involving one or a couple of these issues.
Yes, like, the abso-freaking-lutely. Most of these game companies and platforms in general are just like, yep. I mean, it was what, a year and a half, 2 years ago that even PlayStation was like, we're gonna take off the PlayStation 3 online capabilities, and then there was a bunch of fan outcry, and and then they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll leave it on. Uh, I don't know if it's still online. I think it still is PS3. PS3 online still. 10 months ago, it still had online.
Yeah, 10 months ago.
10 months ago.
That's the thing, because they'll say, like, oh, we'll keep it on for now. And then there'll come a time where they'll be like, we're just going to turn it off now. And then they'll be like, no, like, hey, you've got 2 consoles, just buy a new one.
Yep.
Just buy the 4 or buy the 5.
The other problem is, even buying physical games now, I can tell you the amount of times I buy a brand new game, I put the disc in, it copies from disc, and a big old pop-up in the top corner of the PS5 goes, downloading update.
Yeah.
And it's like a day one update because the game doesn't actually work without it sometimes. Like, and it might work, or it might just be like profoundly broken on release without it. As a joke, I bought the new Fatal Fury game, City of the Wolves, and as a joke, me and my friend wanted to know if the 2 guest characters I spoke about in the last episode, Cristiano Ronaldo and Salvador, and the DJ Salvador, were on the disc. Like, if I put this disc in and I was unconnected to the internet, were they on the disc? And they were not.
Oh!
They are not on the disc. Everybody else is. You can play versus. You can play arcade ladder. Most modes are available to play on disc without an update. But both the soccer player and the DJ are not on the disc. They are not. They do not show up at all on the menu at all.
Damn.
Which I guess that makes sense, because in the one day future, this game won't have the license to those people's likeness anymore. And at that point, you couldn't sell the game anymore if it didn't. But the physical copies of the game that still exist out there also won't have access to it, because without an update, those 2 people don't exist technically on the disc.
So cue you playing the game without the update.
I mean, we did try it for a little bit. The game felt great. And then I immediately updated to the internet because I wanted to play other things too.
Aww. Well, at least you got to play it a bit without those 2 in it.
Yeah, I just don't look at them. It's fine. But yeah, no, like, that's the one thing of, like, even with owning the physical games now, is that without day one patches and updates, sometimes these games are unfinished or not, don't operate just right. Or what about the games that get DLC that make it like the complete edition, and they never put out a physical edition with like the DLC on the disc, or the DLC is a code? One day a bunch of PS4 games are gonna go offline, and you're not going to be able to download Bloodborne's DLC anymore.
I'm just having PTSD when you were like unfinished games, and my brain went, ugh, Anthem.
Oh my god. Yeah. Is Anthem even still operating?
I don't think it is. No, I think it's dead. It's been dead for so long. Like, I don't even think that game was technically should have existed in the first place. But that's a prime example of an unfinished game that is released, that is promised so much, and then has absolutely nothing. Given nothing, told they're going to get something, given nothing, and then just shut down. That is a prime example. As somebody who at the time, with the people that I used to interact with, was just like, yeah, sure, Meg, totally come and play this game called Anthem with us. It looks really cool. It's only £70.
It's still £70.
No, that's how much it was when I bought it.
Oh, you bought it?
Yep, I own the physical.
sorry.
I own the physical copy of Anthem. One of my least proudest achievements.
Wow.
Although technically I own a piece of history.
That's true. That's like a friend of mine wants to buy the Funko Pop game just to have the thing to say, like, I own it. Because one day this game is going to go out of print and be valuable. Because the licensing nightmare that is having 2 million IP properties on it.
God.
Why it's impossible to get Super Robot games in North America.
To be honest, I'm going to probably use that. Like, when I get into my 90s and someone's just like, hey, what's this? Ah, that game is called Anthem. Ah, was it cool? No, child. This is a good example of terrible games.
No, it was terrible.
This is a prime example of an unfinished game that got nothing from it, and everything was promised and nothing was given, and it was shut down. Don't be like Anthem.
Little Timmy finally asks you about Anthem. A single tear goes down your cheek. I was waiting for this day.
I was hoping you wouldn't ask that.
No, you were hoping that I said, like, Anthem was finally worth it so I could talk about it.
Oh my god. Gosh. Rolling on, unless you have anything else to add.
Nope, I think that's about it on that one.
rolling on from the horrendousness that was Anthem. Sort of sticking with gaming companies doing naughty things. That's obviously been around, but I've noticed that this has been a trend for the past 5 years, but obviously it's been going on a lot longer than that, but it's more prominent and more like in the media, is obviously the company layoffs. I think the most recent one that was announced was from another very much loved gaming company. Looking at you, EA. 300 people left, or not necessarily left, but were forced to leave, and they also cancelled Titanfall. They were going to be making another Titanfall, and Titanfall 2 is probably one of the games EA needs to flex about more, because people look back on that game with much love. No one's getting another one now.
Yeah, no, that's nuts. People love Titanfall. I have two friends who were like ecstatic that Titanfall was going to be getting something. And then yesterday in our group chat, they just sent this, and I'm just like, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm so sorry.
It's terrible, isn't it? It's just. But no. I mean, lots of people have been like trying to think of the cause and attributing it to things like, oh well, lots of people were hired during COVID and people had to work from home, and now they're realizing that, you know, they don't need to have as many staff. It's obviously more expensive to keep staff on, and with the prices of everything going up, and, you know, there's lots of like stuff like that. But at the end of the day, these are people's lives you're messing with.
Yes. And the problem is like the shutdown of studios for like one bad performing game, or like, oh, how many like live service games get shut down before they come out? There was that one a little while ago, but the like God of War, they were going to make a live service game out of that, and it got shut down, and then the studio got moved to something else, and then that got shut down, and then the studio had layoffs, and I'm like, that's not the studio's fault. It's management's fault, where they just keep making unreasonable demands of these studios, and then when these studios get shut down, they just kind of go, oh no, how could the studios have done this? Yeah, have you ever seen the Eric Andre meme picture of just, it says game studios, and in the background is just developers? Eric Andre shoots the developers, like, oh no, Who will think of the developers?
No.
Uh, Eric Andre bit is so funny.
I mean, one that does spring to mind, but this is more like a company shutting down. But the only reason I'm bringing this up is because the beautiful irony of this is that the game is actually celebrating its 15th anniversary. Is the Nier series.
Oh, yeah.
So when Nier officially was released back in, which is mental to think about, like 2010. I think it was 15 years old. Oh my god. That was obviously published by Square Enix, but it was developed by a small game company who basically, once they made the game, sent it to Square Enix to be published, everyone packed up and left. The company was done. Game over. Like, nothing left. But thanks to Square Enix publishing that game, they were able to get the actual, like, the message and the idea out of it across. And the creator of the Nier series goes on to make Nier Automata, which is one of the, like, biggest games that I can think of in the past 15 years. Like, what, especially when I think about games that, when you look at it on paper, you'd be like, this seems too weird to be that popular. But it was so popular. And if it wasn't for that, it wouldn't have brought about the resurgence of the original Nier, which was, at the time, 2 games. Nier Gestalt, which was released for the Western market, and Nier Replicant, which was released for the Eastern market. The only major difference was that the character you played was either an elderly, I say elderly man, a man in his, I guess, late 30s, who played the father to the daughter Yona, or in the Japanese Eastern version, you played her older brother. Same name, stuff like that, but the appearance was different.
Okay.
But obviously after Nier Automata came out, the resurgence for the original games became really popular. They then released Nier Replicant version, I don't remember the number or code that did, but they basically re-released Replicant for the Eastern market and re-released it. I think they just re-released it like worldwide.
Okay.
And that was like super popular as well because people that really liked Nier Automata wanted more stuff like that, and the games are actually interlinked because they added an additional ending into Nier Replicant that actually connects the 2 games together, and there's connections with the Nier Replicant in Nier Automata because it's basically the same universe. It's just a few 1,000-year time gap, basically. But, like, if it wasn't for, yes, as horrible as it is, the company being shut down, would we have got Nier Automata? And would we have got a re-release of Nier Replicant? And would it be celebrating a 15th anniversary?
That is an entirely tough one to say, because, like, is it made only because of that? Or if it did well enough, but if the studio didn't get shut down, would they have still just gone and done the same thing anywhere?
Well, because I think the thing was that the game, I think when the original Nier Gestalt and Nier Replicant were released, it didn't do horrendous. It wasn't like dog shite, but it wasn't like, oh my god, this is the best thing of all time. It was like very unique and weird for Square Enix, because obviously Square Enix do fantasy stuff anyway. So it was sort of like, okay, well, this is like a fantasy market thing anyway, so people could sort of get that, but it was still like weirdly like enigmatic in its approach to telling its story. So I don't think lots of people like really understood it unless you were like really invested in wanting to know the lore. It was only when, or I don't know what it was specifically about Automata that made it so popular, but because it has exactly the same elements, unless it's just because of the fact you play 2B. You're playing hot android chick instead of Old man
as
looking
much
for daughter, or older brother looking for younger sister.
it is one of those things of sometimes being a hot robot lady can sell a game beyond the fact that it's like, oh, hot lady robot absolutely plays game. Profound, touching, emotional game about hot lady robot. Sometimes everything can be true. This really tells us that you can both be hot and deep at the same time.
Mm. So yeah, I mean, yes, it's horrible to think that the company went under and all those people technically lost their jobs, but I'm hoping that the creator of the game, when they were obviously given the opportunity to make Nier Automata, they hopefully tried to reach out to some of those people to bring them back. I can only hope.
I would hope so too.
Because if it wasn't for those guys to begin with, I don't think Square Enix would have probably approached the creator to be like, "Do you want to make another one of these weird, wonderful games?"
Yeah, it's hard to say like how much of this is just born from the fact of like all these bad things happened and that's how we ended up here, or if like the same things would have happened if these bad things didn't happen. One day I will invent a alternate universe travel machine and we will find out. Uh, we'll find out that no, because the studio didn't get closed, they decided that hot lady robots were not okay, and we just played as gruff old men looking for our family.
Yeah,
For the rest of the Nier series.
It turns out the late 30s man was the hottest thing in Nier, and when they released the quotations hot robot android, everyone went, "Ugh, it's awful. Bring back Papa Nier." That's what people call him. People call him Papa Nier because he's the older one of the two. It's Nier and Papa Nier. I love it so much. I love it so much.
No, that's pretty good.
I mean, I'm obviously, from the fact I know probably way too much about the game, I'm an advocate for both games anyway. Big fan of Nier, big fan of Nier Automata. Fantastic games, fantastic voice acting. Thank you for existing in my life. And a fantastic soundtrack. Don't forget about the soundtrack. I think, to be honest, the soundtrack at one point was actually more popular than the game. People were buying the soundtrack and being like, "This soundtrack is really cool. What's it from?" "It's from a video game called Nier." "Oh, maybe I should check it out." And I'm like, yes. Considering that's where it's from. Oh my god.
A strong soundtrack can sell a game.
It really can, because I seem to recall that the soundtrack did well on its own, let alone game sales. So, good job for them. But I personally don't think going back from the sunshiny version of layoffs back to the more realistic version, that I think this is sort of the norm now. They're just gonna, wherever they can cut corners, they're gonna cut corners, I guess.
Yeah, we in fact just need to take a step away from like big AAA games because they're just not tenable. Like the turnover's too high, the work hours are too ridiculous. Maybe in fact we don't need to do yearly game releases for certain things, and we need to move more like to the like as much as like, oh, people go like, oh, there's AAA games, AA games, and like indie games. Like AA, like lower impact, fun, enjoyable experiences that don't need to be high budget, like extravaganzas.
Yeah,
and maybe
I know.
that,
yeah.
maybe like because they're not as expensive, it might mean that like studios not selling, like it doesn't become a blockbuster hit immediately. Doesn't mean that the studio lost a bunch of money. It's similar way that like movies are, like movies having like bloated several $1 million budgets, like I mean tens of millions is more accurate, and then they go, yep, movie was a flop, it only did 60 million in the box office, and it's like, yeah, because your budget was like $95 million. And it's like, maybe the problem is like we don't need to make games with that much kind of bloat to them.
Yeah,
smaller experiences, more concise.
Something is being, like you say, something is being lost in transition somewhere, and I think when they figure out what that is, they'll be able to try and fix the formula, because I mean, most of the games I play, it's very rare that I'll play AAA games anymore. Most of the games I play are would technically be classed as like indie games mostly, and probably a few double A's. But it's because they're the type of games I want to play. I've never been on the hype train for having to have like the brand new games that come out like immediately. I prefer to like look around and find like a surprise indie game in like a sale bundle somewhere. So, and I always take recommendations from other people. Well,
so here's a like in perspective. How much do you think Nier Automata approximately cost to develop?
are we talk? Oh, okay. So,
I've got the approximate number here. What do you think?
Okay. Well, it's gonna have a much bigger budget than the first game because it's on PlayStation 4, not PlayStation 3 and Xbox. So we have to put that into perspective as well. It's more open world. I know that. Oh, like it's weird. It's weird to think like I could put numbers like money numbers to movies, but it seems like difficult for some reason to do it for games.
Yeah, it is tough. Because like so much when you say development, so much happens behind the scenes.
Yeah, because it's there's all the different departments, isn't it? As well, you've got the art department, the digital art department, the animation department, the models the people that make the models department, the audio department for the real sound effects and the actual orchestra. I mean, fucking hell, they had I think they had a full orchestra, bloody singing people and. Oh my god. I'm probably gonna be I'm gonna be way off in either too low or too high. Probably too low. I'm gonna say $1 million.
Okay. You were too low. What was the budget for this game? Where was it? Oh no, I lost it. There was a Forbes article just like had an estimate that it had a budget of about 10 to 20 million.
Yeah, okay.
What do you think Modern Warfare 2019 Call of Duty its budget was?
Oh my god. I'm gonna say which one? Which one?
2019. So I tried to go for one very close. So like Nier Automata came out in about 2017.
Yeah. So they 10 to 20. I'm gonna sort of go down the middle of where I think it would be in the estimations. I'm gonna say about 80 million.
I'm gonna give you 2 more guesses, and I'm gonna tell you hot or cold.
Oh god, am I like frozen?
You're. I think if the meteor hit the Earth, that iceberg may not have melted.
Oh my god. Okay. 140.
You are warmer and still frozen.
Oh my god, are you kidding me? Jesus Christ.
This is from PC Gamer.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm gonna go stupidly extreme then. 260.
You are still ice cold, but you are warmer. And I'm gonna give you 2 more guesses. I feel like you're not getting it.
Obviously, because you can't see my face right now, everyone. I am like peeling. I'm like pulling my skin back from my face, like with the shock. This has cost more than some movies that are made now.
Yes. And this is why like studios get shut down, because development budgets balloon because direction kind of gets lost. But like I'm giving you 2 more guesses. So you said 250 million?
260 was the highest I did.
260?
So I'm still cold.
You're still cold, but you are warmer.
Jesus Christ. Okay. 380.
380? You're a bit chilly, but you're warmer.
Oh my god. Okay, I'm gonna go stupid now. 620.
Oh, you're hot. It was over 640 million.
Oh my god! What?
And that's what I mean. Like, again, there isn't a definitive number for Nier Automata. There's just an estimate from a Forbes
And
article.
I'm sorry. Without looking up like gameplay images for that Call of Duty game, I can tell you right now, Nier Automata still look better. And that's not me being biased.
and here's I guess this PC the PC Gamer article thankfully has also the development costs for Black Ops 3 in 2050. So 2 years prior to Nier Automata,
God.
the budget for Black Ops 3 was 450 million, like again approximately.
But
And
the
then
thing,
Modern Warfare.
I don't get why it's so much, because I mean, I personally, again, my opinion, personally, I don't think overall there's too much difference, especially with the gameplay sort of mechanics of those type of games. They can't reuse assets from before. Why do they need to have like the budget of 2 to 3 movies worth for a game that, for the most part, plays very similarly and overall looks very similar?
And for the record, this article also states that these are development costs and do not factor in to marketing costs or anything like that. But also the Nier Automata one did not factor in marketing costs. But I will say, I see a lot of advertisement for Call of Duty every year.
Yes, yeah.
So I assume that's also quite a balloon of budget. If you want to talk about a game series that reuses its assets every year, you all should check out Yakuza. It literally uses the same assets like every time, and it's great, and I have a blast, and you will too, I promise. Please play the game.
Is this going to be a running bit for the whole of the podcast? Because I don't mind if that ends up being the case.
Okay. In a friend group chat, every time I took a picture, I had a copy of Yakuza Like a Dragon hidden in the background somewhere. And sometimes it was subtle, and sometimes it wasn't. Like, I'd take a picture of the TV because something funny was on, and then there's just a copy of Yakuza, like, behind the TV that you can barely see.
Oh my god.
And I did that for, like, 6 months. And I will do it here. There are 3 kinds of marketing. There are subliminal messaging, where I just whisper it every so often. There's liminal messaging, where I just tell you to play it. And there is superliminal messaging, where I will just yell at you to play the game, please.
Oh my god. Well, I think that's a beautiful way to end today's podcast. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Clay. It's been fun as always, and I feel like even though we haven't technically solved any of these issues because we are just 2 people around a campfire,
Yes.
it's been nice to talk and, you know, sort of. I feel like I've probably vented more than you have, but to just vent some frustrations as to what's going on in the world. I just hope that things don't go too far downhill with everything.
It'll all come down to how people react in the future. It's if the Switch 2 does extremely well, those prices will probably be more fixed. If people start getting their games through illicit means because they don't own them anymore, things will probably change. Like, it all comes down to that. And who's to say what the future may hold?
Well, thank you so much for joining us today by the campfire. It's been an absolute blast. I've appreciated it, and thank you, Clay, for sitting with me and allowing me to vent my thoughts today.
Oh, not a problem. Always a blast.
And if anybody would like to put down their own comments as to what has been discussed today, if you have your own thoughts and opinions, or you agree with any of the thoughts or disagree with any of the thoughts, because I'm sure people disagree as well, they're allowed to. It is a free internet. I can't really say it's a free country because we're both in separate countries. It's a free internet. Please feel free to drop us a comment and let us know what you think as well.
Absolutely. And I just want to thank everyone out there for buying a license to listen to this podcast today. And just so you know, we reserve the right at any time to go into your eardrums and remove everything you have heard today. So thank you very much.
And once again, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you guys in 2 weeks' time. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. See you soon. Bye, guys. Bye.
Bye. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. This is trademarked.